This week I sat down with former Senator and Governor, Republican George Allen. Governor Allen, thanks for joining us for Washington Business Report. So many of the issues that you've been dealing with in this race have focused on the economy. Let's get to one that really sticks out for Virginians, and that is those automatic spending cuts scheduled to happen in January. You opposed the idea at the time. You strongly oppose them now. What's the alternative?
Well, the alternative is leadership. I opposed it because here they were once again pushing off decisions to another commission, which if they failed would result in these disproportionate cuts, devastating cuts to our military readiness, and over 200,000 technology and defense jobs are at risk in Virginia. And my opponent supported it, and in fact even recently said it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is not raise taxes as they're proposed, only cause more job losses. And I don't think that these 200,000 jobs, these men and women in these jobs, ought to be used as a political bargaining chip to raise taxes on job-creating small business owners. What needs to be done is something, at least as a start, what the House of Representatives passed in May, which averted these cuts, made cuts elsewhere. The Senate's done absolutely nothing. They haven't even passed a budget in 3.5 years. This is unprecedented irresponsibility by the Senate. Now, the things that ought to be done, in my view, is make cuts elsewhere than defense, but the other thing is get revenue in, and one of the best ways to get revenue in is unleashing our American energy resources. One of the first bill I would introduce as a U.S. Senator is to allow us in Virginia to produce oil and natural gas off our coast, and then I'd like Virginia to use the royalties for roads and transportation. The federal government would also get revenue from that, and so if we used our energy resources off our coast, under our land, up to the barren north slope of Alaska, my goodness, the federal government could get over $1 trillion in revenues without raising taxes, beyond the fact that we'd have more affordable fuel and food and electricity and hundreds of thousands of jobs created thereby, and being less vulnerable to outside hostile forces. So to me, leadership is about setting priorities and getting people to work together to achieve those goals, and that's what's needed in Washington.
Well, you've heard your critics, including Governor Kane, say that you have not been specific enough. He says he has a plan that would lay out some very real measures to as an alternative, including increasing revenue through tax increases. But you have pointed to the plan passed by the House. But the House plan does take some real medicine, including Medicare cuts. Do you support those cuts as part of your alternative?
Well, my alternative, as I said earlier, would start with the House plan, but that could be modified. And I don't want to be Medicare. In fact, it's one of my objections to Obamacare is it's taking $700 billion out of Medicare. And so my opponent's view of raising taxes in this fragile economy would only cause more job losses. That's not the solution. The solution is reinvigorating our economy. And there may be loopholes that could be closed. And the more important revenue increase that we could get is from utilizing our plentiful American energy resources, because the federal government gets revenues off of lease sales off of federal lands or federal waters. And we in Virginia, I know from our coal fields to our coast, are ready, willing, and able to provide America with the energy to power our economy. So I think that the House plan has some merit, not in all parts. And as far as I'm concerned, in Medicare, we should not be cutting Medicare. It's already having problems in solvency. We need to be making sure that it is solvent for future generations.
But you've heard the economic experts. They say that doesn't add up, that those are ways to increase revenue. But they say it doesn't, that if you don't tackle Medicare, if you don't tackle some of the things...
You're talking in a broader sense.
Yeah, if you don't tackle Medicare, if you don't look at ways to enhance revenue, another way of talking about tax increases, that it doesn't get us there in terms of reducing this deficit.
All right, first of all, tax increases would be harmful to our economy. What ought to be done with tax policy in our country, in my view, is we need comprehensive tax reform. We need a more simple, more fair, close loopholes, and have a more competitive tax system for our country. I've been advocating to reduce the tax on job-creating businesses from the worst in the world at 35% to better than average 20%. That, from independent studies, would create over 500,000 new jobs a year. That's 5 million jobs over a 10-year period. So to the extent you want to get rid of loopholes and make the tax system more fair for job-creating businesses, I want to work with Republicans and Democrats to come up with that. And my main goal is which tax system will help create the most jobs here in America and make our country more competitive internationally. That'll do it. Also going to a territorial system of taxation so that companies can bring money back into the United States without getting hit with, in effect, a second tax.
You've even embraced a flat tax, but there are some conservatives who say a flat tax is the wrong way to go, that we should be rewarding people who move into work but maybe making low incomes by giving them some big tax break. So where does the flat tax make sense in terms of helping all Americans?
Fair, good question, because you have what I was talking about was a tax on businesses. That's otherwise known as a corporate tax. Insofar as individual taxes are concerned, I think it would be unfair to change the tax system for people who, for example, like the home mortgage interest deduction or charitable contributions. What I'm advocating is a freedom to choose flat tax, where individuals can stay with the current tax code if they so desire, or they may want to go to a simple one where there's few deductions or no deductions, but it's filled out on one sheet of paper. Hong Kong has done something similar to this, and they found that most people migrated to the flat tax. But my idea is let the taxpayer decide whether they want to stay with this complicated system or go to a more simple one.
You've laid out so many things that are embraced by the business community, so many things that are embraced by individuals, and yet you remain behind in this race according to all the recent polls. Why are you losing?
The decision will be made in about a month from now, November 6th. The world's controlled by those who show up. And I have been endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, from NFIB, which represents small businesses. The realtors, with 30,000 realtors in Virginia, have endorsed me, as has the Fraternal Order of Police. And those folks, they know my record, and they also know my opponents. And so I'm confident that when you get to anybody who uses electricity, anybody who drives a car, anyone who thinks health care decisions ought to be made by doctors and patients, anybody who works for a living, anybody who pays taxes or cares about the future of their children or grandchildren will be on our side. And it'll be a close election, but I'm confident that Virginians are going to want to stand strong for freedom and see America begin to ascend again.
Governor Allen, Senator Allen, you've earned both honorifics, and you're either crazy enough or patriotic enough to want to do it again. We appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.